Welcome to the Sound Like Us podcast, where we get the bedroom rock stars out of the bedroom, out into the world to hopefully get them the recognition they deserve. During the interview, we get to know an artist by asking them about how important music is to them, from how their early life shaped the musician they became, to live music, to their first foray into writing and producing music, and what they have planned for the future. Please like, follow, share and subscribe in all the usual places, so Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Instagram, YouTube, etc. A big thank you to everyone that has done so already. Please spread the word far and wide to your friends, family and even that annoying prick you sit next to at work. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform that you use, as this helps give the algorithm a big old slap in the chops and gets these musicians even more of the exposure they deserve. If you're a musician, singer, songwriter, rapper, producer, DJ, MC, or even, God forbid, a drummer, and you fancy joining me on the podcast, please don't hesitate to get in touch and we will get you on. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Sound Like Us podcast and to today's guest, Neil Sheasby from the Midlands-based soul band Stone Foundation. Neil, welcome to Sound Like Us. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Nice to speak to you, Martin.
Nice to speak to you too. Right, let's start from the very beginning. Have you telling us a bit about yourself and the band?
The Foundation has been together now. We're in our 26th year, so I guess you call us veterans. Yes, and I've been in bands since I was 15, since I was at school. So a long time, like 40 years plus. So based in the Midlands. Stone Foundation are kind of an 8-piece soul kind of funk outfit. Been constantly touring over the last couple of decades and released, I think, 11 studio albums now. We just released a new album.
Wow.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So yes, it's been a long old journey, but it keeps unfolding. It seems to be constantly giving and keeps on the up escalator. So the wheels are still in motion, very much so. So here we are.
Yeah, great stuff. Right. So how did the music that your parents listened to influence you while growing up?
Parents weren't big record collectors, really. They were more a different generational hop. They were more kind of from the big band kind of Joe Loss and Ted Heath kind of era. So there was records around, but none per se that would have probably influenced me directly. But music kind of was always in the air. It was a currency back then. So, we'd have the ritual of tuning into the obvious thing like Top of the Pops on a Thursday and everyone would gather around the TV. And it was always on TV, weren't it? It was like entertainment programs, whether it was, I don't know, the Generation Game or whatever, or Kenny Everett show. Music was always a part of it. It was always on TV. But I do remember directly, my dad was involved in the local football side across the road from where I live here, at Addiston Town Football Club. And it was one of his chores for the day, well, he was chairman there, vice chairman. He had to take the music over for the pre-game and everything. So in them days, they had a little Dan set kind of record player that was rigged to the tannoy system. And he took 5 singles over. And I think they must have been hand-me-downs from one of my older cousins or something, because they were far too hip for my dad, if you know what I mean. And them singles were Telegram Sam by T-Rex, there was Woodstock by Matthew Southern Comfort, Indian Reservation by Don Farden, The Witch by a band called The Rattles, which is kind of bizarre to play before a football game. And then what was the other one? I think it's Patches by Clarence Carter. And there was a version of Under My Thumb, not the Stones one, but it was like a Northern Soul, what I realise now was kind of a Northern Soul thing, by Wayne Gibson. And he brought these singles home. He never kept them at the ground. So we had a record player that these singles always nestled by that, ready for each Saturday when Addiston were at home. And I used to play them. But the them 5 singles, which I still have to this day, made a massive kind of impact on me from when I was really, really young, which is bizarre, but that's kind of, and it also, the mechanics of the record player, that's what got me into, like a needle putting on a piece of vinyl that spun round at a certain speed that made that sound. I found that completely fascinating. So whilst they weren't immersed in music my obsession's ridiculous with it, has been since I was a kid, but that was the grounding. That was kind of the first thing where I've seen the magic of records, really.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite it's quite an evocative kind of thing when you're at a football match, especially like a local game, and you're listening to the vinyls there. That's quite an evocative thing for a young person.
Records like Indian Reservation and The Witch, as I say, it's kind of bizarre records to be playing. Yeah. But I think there's just these 5 singles that went round and round in rotation. But yeah, they really stuck with me. Yeah.
Are there any early experiences with music in your community or hometown that you can remember?
Other than
Yeah, well, when I was just before I was a teenager, probably just riding my bike round town. I'd be about 10, something like that. So you're talking, I was born in 67, so this is about 77, 78, and the punk explosion was happening. And just even here, it was a massive scene in a little neighbouring village called Manchester. Loads of punks there. And I used to just go around on my bike, just trundling around my mates. We'd just hear bands rehearsing in the church hall, and then there was little youth clubs, and we just hear like music seeping out. So we just like put our ears, stop, pull up on the bikes and climb up onto the windows and put our ears to it and hear that. That subconsciously must have been a massive kind of influence, and something like when I looked in, I was seeing older kids like Louis and Keith Ricketts, these kids that I thought, well, they're just normal dudes, And I thought maybe we could do this when we get older. Maybe you can learn a guitar, or you could be in a band. And it was all that DIY ethic, and it did seep into our town. And of course, Martin, you didn't have social media, you didn't have phones, so you got out, you either played football on the green or to be in a gang with your mates. To like, you weren't online or on WhatsApp, so they feel like there's more community now. To make your own little gang and community, you form groups, you form bands, you done things together that united you. And I think that's how it started in our community, by me looking at older kids thinking, wow, it's amazing that they can do that. They can make that noise, that this din, but it's something noble about it. And it really inspired me.
Yeah, that would inspire, definitely. So how did the band first get together?
Well, I've been in band, like I said, I've been in band since I was 15. So the first band I had was at school, and that was just a thing of us wanting to do that, just kids wanting to form a band. And we'd done our first gigs and no one laughed, so we just carried on. But Stone Foundation, that started in what we're in now. So it's about late 96, 97, something like that. Well, 26 years ago anyway. But that was like, I just left the previous band. And I didn't know whether, I thought that was it. I thought I'd done it. I toured on the university circuit. I'd had a good crack at it in previous bands, but I was 30 when we started Stone Foundation, and I met my songwriting partner, Neil James. He was in a band that supported my previous band, and he was just a really good singer, and I thought, that's what I'm lacking, really. I've got ideas for songs, but I'm not a singer. I'm a bass player. I can write songs, but I need a front man. When I see Neil, he's about 8-9 years younger than me, just gave me that kind of skip again to think, no, I'll start something again. I know I'm 30, but let's go around again. Let's see where this goes. I got excited by it, and here I am, 26 years down the line. Yeah, me and him have stuck together. The core of it stuck together, but obviously we're a big band with our own section and everything. That's the way we wanted to sound. So that's evolved and changed over time. But now we have a settled lineup again. But it's pretty much how Stone Foundation started. But I got an old history before that.
Right. So who's who in the band? Like who does what?
So there's me, Neil Sheasby, and Neil James, the two Neils that kind of write all the tunes. Neil's the singer and plays guitar. I play bass, and obviously we kind of guide it. We're kind of at the helm. And then there's a guy called Dominic Carr, who's the drummer. He's been touring with us for the last 18 months or so he's a fairly new recruit. And Ian Arnold, keyboard player, has been with us for many years now. He's been around for about 20 years. Then the horn section consists of Tony Gaylard, Steve Trigg, and Dave Botherston. Steve and Dave play in Paul Weller's band when he uses a section as well. And then just recently, we've talking of which, Mick Talbot, who's in the Style Council, he's joined the touring band as well. So we're really lucky in that sense.
Really?
Mick's been playing with us for the last 12 months. So that's the band we're taking out on the road at the minute, yeah.
Cool. It kind of leads me quite nicely on to the next question. You've collaborated with Paul Weller on quite a few occasions, like including on Deeper Love and Mother India, which is obviously one of his songs, to name a couple. How did that collaboration with Paul Weller come about?
So we wind back to 2016. Just before that, we got a friend called Mark Baxter who knows Paul, and we were giving him our previous records. Just to say, send this to Weller, see what, just put in his hands, whatever. We never knew whether they were going in the bin or whether he was listening to them. As it transpired, he was listening to them, and he liked a couple of songs, particularly a song called Beverly from Life Unlimited album, and our version of a song called That's the Way I Want to Live My Life. That really caught his ear. Anyway, he was doing, at the time, he was between records, and he was doing a track with Steve Ellis from The Love Affair, who was famous for doing Everlasting Love. He's a friend of Paul's. And he was cobbling this demo together. And he said to Bax, I think he was testing the water. He said, "What about your mates up in the Midlands, Stone Foundation? Maybe send them this if they could finish it." So Bax got in touch and said, "Oh, Weller wants to mail you a track." And we were like, "What an opportunity!" So we thought, we can't let this go. So we didn't like do it in demo form. We literally went into our little studio and really took it seriously, made a big arrangement, finished it, wrote a bridge, Neil come up with a chorus, and that became a song called Limit of a Man, which Paul had just outlined the kind of chords for. So we sent it back and he loved it. And it was like, wow, this is great. He said, well, why don't they come to the studio down to Blackbarn? And maybe if they've got a couple of other things, we'll just have an afternoon recording. We'll record it. Maybe if they've got a couple of other things. So again, we ran with that. We thought, right, let's get prepared. This could be the start of something. So we wrote about 5, 6 tunes maybe, as well as having Limit of a Man. We went down quite prepared, and that's how we first met him. And obviously, you know, a massive fan. It's always a big influence for me. So it was a bit of a weird moment. But once the sticks clicked and we got into that environment and enjoying us playing music, it just was all a leveler. And it really, really worked. And he loved it as much as we did. And he said, "She's, what are you going to do with this?" And I said, well, I don't know, maybe release it as an EP or something if we get 4 songs out of it. He said, "It's a bit good for that." He said, "You should keep this tune now and you maybe go away, write some more tunes and we'll do a record. I'll produce it." We're like, wow, really? Well, incredible. So that's how we begun. We did. We just forged this working relationship, and then we become friends. And thankfully, you know, that's continued to this day. And he's very gracious with us. We always use the studio now. We use Charles down there. We've recorded every album subsequently since then. So we're getting on for 10 years now, our relationship. We just become friends, and he just likes the band. He likes what we do. He likes us as people, and very lucky. Yeah,
that's great. So what studio do you record in? Is it his own studio?
It's called Blackbarn Studios. It's in Brickley in Surrey, near Woking. So he's had that for years. So that's his own residential studio. So we're able to stay there as well when we go. So a very inspiring place to record. Yeah, you know, you get a lot of results just from being in that environment.
Yeah, definitely. You've also worked with a lot of other legends from Graham Parker to Duran Jones and many in between. What is it like working with such a diverse bunch of great artists?
It's amazing. It's a pinch yourself thing, really. As always, we never do it for the sake of it. It's always if the song, me and Neil wrote a song and we think it calls for another voice. It may call for a female voice. It may call for someone different than Neil singing the song. And Neil's pretty good as well. You know, he's not precious about it. He'll give something up if he thinks it's going to be for the benefit of the song. And we just approach people, quite lofty people, if you say. Sorry, fell off there. Quite lofty artists like Melba Moore, Betty Levette, William Bell, as you say, Graham Parker. We've worked with loads of people, really, but it's always the music that does the talking. We usually have to get in touch via their management, so they're becoming cold to it. But it's always, once they hear the song, they think, "Oh yeah, I see what they mean. I can hear me singing this, and this would work." So that's how it works, really. And we've been, again, really fortunate that we've hardly had anyone turn us down. You know, when we approach people, they've got the project and they've got the idea. And sometimes it's been lovely because we've met these people and we've worked with them in the studio. But other times, like Betty Levette, Melbourne situation, obviously they're on the other side of the Atlantic, so they're in America. But with all this technology we have now, you can
send it, and
they can send it. Yeah, for sure. And even Melba's case, we even did a video that way. So it's crazy what you can do.
Really?
Yeah.
Crazy what you can do these days.
Indeed. Yeah.
Is there a specific piece of music that transports you to another time or place, maybe brings back like memories or emotions?
Any of that, any song. You mean in general? Yeah, there's a lot, really. Do you know what, Martin? I diarise my life by music, really. Yeah, if I hear a song, I usually place myself in that moment, what I was doing, what year it was, who I was hanging out with. So I think that's the beauty of music, innit? You know, but a particular one, well, it happens to me all the time. You know, if there's something on the radio, it just sends me back to, you know, a certain place. I imagine there's important records that would have been like if I go back to when I first started the band when I was a kid, you know, I was a teenager. I look at like 1980 was an absolute crucial year, really. I just turned a teenager as well. You know, I was 13 that year. And Teenage Kick's just been out the year before by the Undertones. So imagine, you know, just turning a teenager and that being a song that was current. You know, it's an incredible feeling. And then there was 2 records that come out. There was Searching for the Young Soul Rebels by Dexys Midnight Runners, and there was Sound Effects by The Jam. Them 2 records come within the space of just a few months. And it changed my life, really, to be honest, them 2 records. They were the actual catalyst for me wanting to think, I want to be in a band. That's what I want to do. You know, I can do it. Yeah. So they're really important records. I mean, I don't go back and listen to them very much now because I know them things inside out, so it's not something. But
Yeah.
the essence of them and the history of them has stayed with me. The spirit of them stayed with me. But they were really life-changing records, really.
Yeah. Who would you say are your main influences and main influences of the band?
Well, obviously, with soul-influenced bands, we're very much geared towards soul, that soul and funk thing. But that changes with every record as well, Martin, really. Like this
Yeah.
last record was more on a funk tip, really. So, when you come into record something or write something, it's as important what you don't listen to put out what you don't want anything that infiltrating. If you think you might want to make a record in this manner or this avenue, it's important to block out a few things. But again, there's things that, like, again, years back when I first heard Stevie Wonder's records, that period from 72 to 74, made 4 records. There was like Talking Book, Fulfilling Us First Finale, Music in My Mind, and Inner Visions. They're made in a 2-year period. And they were the first records where I heard everything that was going on rather than just like the melody, the song, and the music.
Yeah.
I heard what the bass was doing, what the guitar. I mean, he's playing everything on there, really, what the drums are doing. It's an incredible records. And that was the first time I thought, wow, about arrangements. There was so much scope what you can do in music. So they always stick with me as being like inspirational when I come to making music. I mean, we never get anywhere near that. That's a massive bar. But you know what I mean? It's like you're always striving for, Curtis Mayfield and Al Green and records like that. You think, just a classic, something that's timeless. You're going to remember like the bass line, and I'm writing bass lines even, as well as lyrics or songs or whatever. I want them to be memorable as well, and think every key element, the way them records are made, everything's there in the right place. And that's always in my mind when we go back to the studio to make sure that everything sounds really knitted and correct.
Yeah, so that's kind of the process you go through to work your influences into your music. Is that kind of what you do?
I worked in record shops all my life as well. So imagine that. I've been surrounded when I was 17, 18. I started in record shops, stayed there for 20 years, and I still do a couple of days now, just because I love it. So you're surrounded by all that music. And in the downtime, you're like thinking, "Oh, I wonder what John Martin sounds like, or I wonder what Nick Drake sounds like." And you can just put them on while you're working away, and all that that canon of records, being surrounded by it. So music's always been my life. So I've got so much. In a way, it's an Achilles heel for me and Neil James, because both of us love music. We got so much of it that in the early days of Stone Foundation, it was almost a curse. We were influenced by too much, and you have to kind of whittle down to think, who are we? What do we want to say? And how do we use this without being retrospective? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things off.
So which record stores did you work at? Which one do you work at now?
But, well, I'm in a place called Henley in Arden, which is over the other side of Warwickshire at the minute, and it's called Urban. It's a vintage clothes shop, but they've got a record department. And his old mate of mine, Frank, and he just asked me to help out for a couple of days. And to be honest, I'm full time with the music thing, but I just did it really just to break my week up a bit, and because I'm really passionate about it. But back in the day, I had a record shop just outside of Coventry in a place called Bedworth, another small town just like Addiston. But records were the currency back then. We were just so busy. I can't believe, looking back on it, how busy the shops were. It was the currency, and people just bought records in the droves. And then I was there then when people started giving up on that, and CDs come out, and they were a bit of a novelty all of a sudden, and then they took off.
Yeah.
So I've seen another boom.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing vinyl come back again. So I'm fascinated by it all, and because I've been in the game for so long, obviously I've got a huge collection. It's beyond obsession. It's like an illness. My record collection is.
Yeah, I know people that have had thousands of records. Like, where do you put it all?
I've got my own room just over there. Yeah.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I'm lucky in that respect. Yeah, I've got the space to do it. But yeah, I use it all the time. I'm DJing next Saturday, so I do use my records. I listen to them all the time and use them for reference, for writing as well. So that's just my thing. Everyone has their thing, don't they? And that's mine.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. All right, a random question for you. If you could take anyone to any gig in history by any artist, A, who would you take? B, what gig would it be? And C, why would you take that person to that gig?
Very good. So can it be anyone? Could it be like a gig? Is it supposed to be a gig I've seen, or it could be anything of any?
It could be absolutely anything.
With people I've seen, one of the best gigs that I've seen, countless gigs as well, tons of things. I've been lucky there as well. Right place, right time as well. But one that sticks in my mind, I've seen Prince on the Love Sexy tour, and that blew my mind, completely blew my mind. So For that reason, I would take my son Lowell, because he's got that passion for music like I have. He's 21 now, and obviously he wasn't born back then. But yeah, I'd like to share that moment with him for sure.
Yeah.
For anyone I haven't seen, I think as well, when I look back on the history of music, I'd like to have seen Bob Marley and the Wailers when they first come over in '74. Was it when they played Hammersmith Odeon?
Yeah.
I think that would have been incredible. So I would have liked to have shared that probably with someone as well, probably my wife, Claire. But yeah, you see that footage of stuff like that, and you just think, wow.
Yeah.
Been lucky though. I've been really lucky. Jeff Buckley, I've seen him when he first come over to like 40 people, and that was one of them moments where I stood there thinking, what am I watching here? This is incredible. I only went because I knew his dad's records, Tim, and he'd been dead years, and so I went to see his son before the album Grace come out. I've been really lucky with right place, right time moments. But in short, to answer your question, I take Lowell to see Prince in 1987 when he done the Love Sexy tour. Yeah, because that was amazing.
That sounds good. What was the first piece of music that you ever wrote?
Oh, God, it was terrible. It was terrible, Martin. It was a song, I think it was a song called Wide Open Spaces, which is an awful title. But when we were in a band called The In Crowd, and the remarkable thing was, even though we're getting together, you have to learn covers to learn how to play songs of the people's music. But from the off, we wanted to write our own songs. And that was one of them. I don't think I'd done the lyrics. I think I was more doing the music on that. But it was amazing when it come together. It was absolute rubbish, but we felt brilliant when it come together. We taped it on them little, the little cassette recorders that have the one microphone. You press the two buttons down. Just recorded it crudely. I think I still got the recording actually somewhere in the drawer. But it was like, painting or dot to dot, when you put joining the dots, and all of a sudden you got, oh, wow, yeah, we've done something here. We've created something, and then that leads you on to trying again. So from the off, even when I was like 14, 15, I was really keen to create music. Yeah. I guess it's when you listen to songs on the radio, and you probably hear a song and you think, I wouldn't have put that bit there. That I'd have gone, so already in your head, you're rearranging other people's songs. So that, in a way, that's becomes writing. You've got it in your brain to think, oh, well, what would I do? And that's how it all started, really. But yeah, I'd like to hear it again, because I bet it's terrible. I'd be embarrassed of it, but at least I did it. And that's a springboard.
So when you first sort of branched out into making your own music, that was in the band, wasn't it? The In Crowd.
Yeah. I've always been collaborative. I don't think I've ever really, I've always needed, sparring partners. I still do with Neil, really. I like to work in a band ethic. I never liked the idea of, being a solo thing or solo project. I like the idea of the gang, of the band, and everyone collaborating and having someone to bounce.
Do you recall the first gig that you ever went to?
Oh, yeah. So basically that was Madness, and it was at Leicester de Montfort Hall, and it was a kids' matinee. It was a kids' matinee gig, because they used to do that in the Two Tones days. Yeah, it was £1 to get in, and they'd play before they'd done the main show, but they'd do a full gig. So it'd start about 6 o'clock or something, and it was for under 15s. And it was amazing, and they had a magician support them as well. But it was around the time, it's about 79, 80, something like that. And there's loads of skinheads there, and they're all jumping off the balcony, and people were catching them, because Quadrophenia had just come out. And there was a scene in the movie where that happened. So skinheads do it, and I thought, this is absolutely amazing. I was like 12 years old. And I thought all gigs would be like that. I was really disappointed when I seen the Police the week after, and everyone was just jumping about, but it wasn't like the Madness gig. But it was an amazing experience. So that was it, Madness at De Montfort Hall in a kids' matinee, under 15s, £1 to get in.
I can't imagine seeing Madness at that age.
Yeah, they were just starting out as well, because that was unfolding on our doorstep. I mean, obviously Madness was from London, but in Coventry, I'd seen, not long after that, I'd seen the Specials, then the Selector, the Beat, and then there was I'd seen the Police, I'd seen the Jam. I just got the book for it. I just started going. And it was a golden period as well, the gigs were...
Yeah, absolutely. Can you remember the first gig that you ever did yourself?
That was a place called Badsley Youth Club, which is a very tiny village just up the A5 from me here. Yeah, 10 minutes up the road. We were still at school, and I think we supported a band called The Dream Factory, and we only played about 5 songs, a couple of jam covers, a couple of our own, and maybe an instrumental or something. I think it was a cover of Joe Nighty. But it was great, and everyone turned up. Half the school turned up. Loads of girls turned up. They're all waiting. If we walked in, they're all there lined up. All
That's the
going,
main thing, isn't it? That's what you wanted.
But it was crazy. It was on again, like I said earlier. No one laughed. No one took the piss, and it was like okay. Oh. And then I think a few weeks down the line, we done one at Tamworth Arts Centre. And it got reviewed in the local paper, in the Addison Tamworth Herald. And he gave us a really good review, a guy called Sam Holliday. And all the teachers were coming up to me at school going, have you seen this? I was like, yeah, I was really proud. And them little moments can be a difference between you taking it serious and continuing, or just thinking, oh, it's just some lark that we're having at school, But we continued because of these little moments. But the first one, passed the youth club, and it was great. Yeah, brilliant.
How did you feel going on stage for the first time?
I was really nervous. I remember just shaking. Yeah, but I got through it. I couldn't really play even really. I was really I just had to keep my head down and look at my guitar and the bass and make sure I didn't make any mistakes. I was more concentrated on that. So I was racked with nerves about the playing rather than, I didn't really notice how many people were there, but they're all on our side. They're all rooting for us. They wanted us to be good.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It was a feeling of euphoria, and you think, I want to do that again. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's good to have quite a supportive atmosphere with the people that are there. Yeah. Right. Looking back, what would you say is the best performance Stone Foundation have ever done?
The most memorable gig would be we went to Japan. We were lucky enough to go 4 times to Japan. But on this one occasion, I think it was about the 3rd time we went out, we were invited to do the Fuji Rock Festival, which is their kind of Glastonbury. And we played at 11:30 in the morning, and the Japanese are very precise. There was 5 minutes before we went on stage, this massive marquee, and there's nobody there, literally nobody. And we thought, oh my word, we've come all this way, halfway across the world.
There's no one here.
But literally within 2 minutes of that, the place was like buzzing. It was electric. There was like thousands in there because they're very precise. They come in dead on time. And the gig was amazing because it translated language. No one could understand really. They weren't that well versed in English, but obviously they're immersed in the pop culture and rock culture. And they loved it. It was great. It was just an amazing moment between us and the audience. And we were miles and miles from home. We had someone introduce us in Japanese. We had no idea what they were saying. But it's all on YouTube, that. And even looking back on it now, it looks magical, really magical. Yeah. And then I think Motorhead were on that bill, Foo Fighters, Disclosure. It was just a magical day. But the gig itself is one I'll never forget.
Check it out, definitely. Is there a particular venue that stands out as a great place for you to perform?
Well, again, it's another pinch yourself moment. We got through Paul, we got invited to do the Teenage Cancer Trust gig at the Royal Albert Hall.
Albert Hall.
And so we supported him there. And that was 2017, the Street Rituals come out. And that was just incredible. That was such a moment. As you can imagine, every day you get to play the Royal Albert Hall. Funny enough, that day, to tie in what I just said to you, I had to go up the A5 to get onto the M40 to go down to London. And I was with Phil, and Coddy, who records all that stuff. Phil was the old SF drummer. He was in the band at the time. And he was in my first band, the In Crowd. So we pulled up outside Basley Youth Club, and we just had a moment to look at Basley Youth Club. Actually, still stood there where we done our first gig, and then we drove down to the Royal Albert Hall to do that gig with Paul Weller. And it was a real day, a real moment, quite emotional, that, to come full circle and think, God, I'm glad we stayed on the road and on the path, and it led to that, But that was incredible. To play there was amazing. What a venue.
So what was it about the Albert Hall that stood out to you?
Well, the way it's situated, the way it's arced, isn't it? When it goes round in that semicircle, and it looks like everyone's eyes are on you, and it's like the balconies and everything. But the sound was great, and it was just like, it's so iconic. You've seen it all your life on TV, even when it's from the Proms or whether it's like gigs like the Harrison concert, this concert for George. You see, it's it's steeped in such history, and you think, Christ, I'm playing the Albert Hall. I wish my mum was around to see it, and my dad. Yeah. It's mad. It's like God's balcony up there. It was a really
that would be an amazing. Right, another random question for you. If you could say 5 albums by 5 other artists from a burning building, which 5 are you going to go for?
Crikey. Okay, well, I'll take one of the Stevie Wonder ones. First of all, let's take Innovisions. Then I would take Spirit of Eden by Talk Talk, because that's one of my Desert Island discs. Lovely record. Yeah. I would say there's an album by David Sylvian called Secrets of the Beehive, which has the same kind of vibe. Has the same kind of vibe. My phone keeps falling down. Same sort of vibe as that Talk Talk record. So there's three. Probably Tom Waits or Rain Dogs, because that's so left field, that record, and I love it. And that massive kind of game changer for me. And what else? There's so many, there's tons of them, but I'll go Love Forever Changes as well, an album by Love. For now, but that'll change tomorrow. And that would be different tomorrow. Yeah, that's just what first thing that come into my head today.
So that's what music does to you.
Yeah.
You know, you're saying earlier you got so many different favourite artists and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. What is your favourite all-time Stone Foundation track to perform live?
To perform live, well, that changed. But at the minute, in our current set, I really enjoyed the bookends, really. So it's basically the opening song and the closing tune. So at the minute, we open with the album opener, which is called How Many Times. And that really sets the tone, really, really, when it sets a real atmosphere. And once if we get it right, then you're going to have a good gig. If the sound's right, and you get it, I think really cloaks a nice atmosphere for the old gigs. I love playing that and walking onto that. And then we've got the tune we recorded with Melbourne Moore called Now That You Want Me Back, which usually closes our sets. And that's one where the old room, by that time, everyone's so joyous, the room, and having a great time. And you see everyone dancing and into it. And it's just a real connection between us and the audience. And it feels a real joyous occasion, joyous moment, and that never fails. So I always get a buzz from playing that.
Yeah. So by the time you've done that song, everyone's in the palm of your hand, kind of thing.
Hopefully, usually, it usually works out. Yeah.
What are your earliest memories of recording?
Okay, so the first time I went to a proper studio was a place called Horizon Studios, which is quite famous in Coventry. So it's long gone now, but again, that was associated with the two-tone movement. They'd recorded a lot of them singles there, and we went in about 1984, I think it would have been, and we had to save it was about, I don't know, it was a lot of money, but a lot of money back then. It'd been a few £100, which seemed like a king's ransom to us when we were kids. And we went in, and I remember being really disappointed because it was a time when I think everyone was giving up real instruments, and they're having all the studio technology was taking a turn at its early 80s. So I remember we had about 3 songs we wrote, and we went in, and the guy who was engineering and said, "Oh, you don't need that drum kit," and he set up this kind of them Simmons pads with the 50p piece looking drums, electronic drums. We're like, I'm not sure about this. It's all the rage, and we recorded, and he went, "Oh, it sounds great. Sounds like, Scritti Politti." I was like, "Well, we don't want to sound like Scritti Politti. We want to sound like us." So I remember being really disappointed with the results. So my first experience, though, in a lovely studio, deep in history, and it should have been something to celebrate. I remember being a bit intimidated and a bit frustrated, but yeah, it was a nice experience to go in there. And I remember thinking, well, it's lessons in it. You think, well, I'm never going to be talked away or steered away from my vision now. So you learn quickly. And then we found a guy who used to be in Dexys, Paul Spear. He moved up by us to Tamworth, and he had a studio called the Espresso Bongo Studios. He bought that, and we met Paul, and then the Dance Dance, the band I was in thereafter, just stayed there. We recorded there for years, and I learned a bit more of the craft of recording then and how it should be. So yeah, but my first experience was in Horizon in Coventry with the 50p drum things. Yeah, weird. And bass machines.
So how do you record now?
But Paul's, yeah. So there's no set way. Some things we do live. We'll set up the kit and Neil and recording the live room, the basics. And sometimes we'll just, we may have a loop going on, do some work below my son, who's quite handy with Pro Tools and Logic and all that. And sometimes we do things, me and Neil, in advance with him. Mainly it's done in the studio, yeah, pretty much in the moment. We'll come prepared with ideas of songs. Probably have rehearsed them up a bit in our own studio. And then we'll go down to Paul's, and we pretty much know what we're doing when we get down there, yeah.
So you released your latest album, Revival of Survival, in March this year. Talk us through the inspiration for that album.
The inspiration, that come quite quickly, all that, really. I think we'd just done an album previously called Outside Looking In, which had changed the sound slightly. We wanted to explore further in that. So it was more like a dance floor funk thing. It's a bit of a dance record, we knew. It always happens where you get a couple of songs and you think, I know where we're heading now. And we had a song called Reach Out, which Andre Lavelle sings on. He's a great singer, young British soul singer. That was really the blueprint for the record. And then we started writing songs like To Die For You, Worlds Collide. And that was all in a similar vein. And we thought, I know where we're heading now. So the old the old kind of, it was almost like an 80s soul funk thing that was inspiring us, but it sounds very much, when you what you have in your head and what it ends up coming out like, it always comes out slightly different. It always ends up sounding like once we put our own stamp on it. Me and Neil were very much on the same page, and nowadays when we're writing together, we don't have to really sit over a table. We can just send voice notes to each other and say, I've got this idea, and then he'll send me a bit back for, say, a bridge or a chorus, and then we'll just trade ideas that way. So that become quite a quick process. Then we got the band into rehearsal stage, and it really, yeah, it just all come to fruition really quick, and that funk dance thing become prevalent, and we thought, yeah, good, we're something here. But then again, the album's bookended by a couple of ambient moments where you got How Many Times, what I spoke about earlier, which is kind of a more Ibiza chill out kind of vibe. And then we've done a song with Omar called Summer Song, which is more of a ballad at the end. But again, it all just fit together. And that's a big thing, Martin. The album's got a flow. For us, we still make records that in our minds, someone's playing them from start to finish. But nowadays with Spotify, I think people just go in and play that song and that tune. But we hope, we make records in the hope that people listen to them as a continuous piece and as a work.
Yeah, that's what they're designed for, to have that flow throughout the whole record.
That's what I think an artist has got in their mind anyway. Yeah, it doesn't matter who it is. That's the way you want to present them.
Is there a track of yours that carries a deep personal meaning for you?
Yeah, if I have to choose one, I'd go back to the Street Rituals records when we're making that initial record. But Paul, there's a song called Your Balloon Is Rising, and that song itself has its own story, because me and Neil never look backwards when we're writing, really. We never go delve back, or we're always trying to move forwards. But that was the first time both of us were thinking about this song that we'd written it about 15 years previous to that. So, I mean, that's about 20 odd years old, that song. But we just, well, this would really work with this, and maybe Paul could sing it. So we kind of rearranged it. Neil wrote a different verse, but kept my chorus, and it really worked. And we took it to Paul, and he just loved it. A lovely sentiment, that song, and it's I don't want to sound like bloody Grim Reaper. Loads of people have since asked our permission to use it at funerals, because it's such a nice sentiment of, someone's existence floating on, And at the time, sadly, when I was doing that, the only downer to them sessions, as I said, there's an Amazon Prime documentary where I talk about this, about the band. But at the time, my mum was in hospital, and she was dying that year while I was having the time of my life in the studio. It was also the only time I left hospital, because she was cocooned in hospital. She'd had a stroke. And that song unfolded in the recording at the time, and it's such an emotional tune that it coincided with ultimately her passing as well. And that song always kind of reminds me of the best of times and the worst of times. But there was a moment when I come back, we'd been recording that song with Paul, and I went straight to hospital to see her. By this time, because my mum had a stroke, she was in and out of consciousness, and she was talking to the nurses, and sometimes she'd talk gobbledygook or whatever. And I said, my mum been all right? And the nurse said, oh God, she's talking some right nonsense today. She reckons you're in the studio making a record with Paul Weller. I said, oh, does she? Does she want to come and meet? So I took the nurse, and I got a photo of me and Paul. And my mum was away. I gave my phone to my mum, and she seen it, a big beaming smile come over her face, and she turned it to the nurse, and she went, no way. So what she'd said was, she knew where I was and what I was doing. Must have been a nice moment. And unfortunately, that was the last time I seen her smile and laugh. That song has a massive, deep, emotional for me, and it'll stay with me for many reasons.
That definitely would, yeah. Can you think of a piece of music that's had a major impact on you, from when you were younger, and you've carried it with you throughout your adult life?
When I was younger, well, it probably is, though we don't play it much, it probably is them records I spoke about early. Probably that first Exes album had a huge impact on me, because it wasn't just the music, it was how they presented themselves as well. There was a lot of records around that time as well, like London Calling by The Clash as well. That made a massive impact on me, because again, the way they looked, the way they presented themselves, it was more than just music. There were records that come out that would make you, for life, that would send you down a certain avenue, whether it was the way you dressed. I mean, there's no bands anymore that would make you dress a certain way for life, or make kids dress a certain way. I hope it is. I don't see it. But back then, youth culture was such a different thing, and it was so impactful. So many important records back then that when I hear them, I'm literally transported back, and I find it inspiring. Yeah, really.
What's one of your most memorable moments from a live show, whether that be a crowd reaction, moment of personal connection, or just something that sticks out to you?
Again, it probably would be Japan. When I've been to Japan and them gigs, not gig I spoke to you about, but we done small little club gigs, and just we travel miles. We just didn't know whether it would work or not. And the response we got, even from the first gig, we played a small little club called the Red Shoes, only held about 70, 80 people. They were packed in like sardines. And that was amazing. It was just like a little sweat box. And that moment where it felt like we just transitioned, we turned a corner as a band, and felt like we were going into, a different step. And we went on tour with the Specials as well in 2011 on an arena tour. That another one that elevated us. We went from playing little pubs to 10,000 people at, say, Alexandra Place or the Rico at Coventry. We played all these arenas. And again, we didn't know whether our music had started tiny, we diminish, or whether we transcended the bigger arenas and stages. And we did. And that was another real moment. Incredible.
Yeah.
And that opened up places like Scotland. We played the SECC in Glasgow, and we couldn't get arrested there before. But you could go back then and tour and play like 200 capacity venues in Scotland and have an audience, because a percentage of that crowd we were playing to on the Specials tour would have latched onto us, enjoyed us, and come back to us. So there's many moments, Martin, what changed the game for us. As we got older, we thought we're doing it the opposite way around. We thought it'd be ever decreasing circles, but it's not. It's going the other way. The elevator's going all the time. People keep coming to it. And I think that's a good thing with Stone Foundation. We've not had overnight success or anything. It's just been a steady flow of people keep coming to our thing. And it's like almost organic, and it's keeping us, longevity to it.
Yeah, true. What is an album that's the first sort of album you really connected with on a kind of deep level?
I think when I was really young, and I was reading Jam interviews, and Paul Weller was talking about soul music and Curtis Mayfield and things like that, even going back to the most basic stuff with Tamla Motown. So when I got a record, it was a compilation album, a red-covered album, which was a compilation album of Otis Redding. And I remember that being different level to, like, it was different to Motown, and it was a step before I got into funk, and that was like a bridge. And I think that album I wore out when I was about 13 years old. And it's just a compilation, a double album, a compilation of Otis Redding, and that was a game changer as well. And that led me into other things, to James Brown, to the Family Stone. And that is like, when you're 13, imagine that, it's just like it was like going back and doing your history lessons, really. And it stuck me. That really inspired me.
Yeah, I can imagine it would. Are there any other bands or artists you enjoy playing with, sort of on the local scenes? Any you've collaborated with live or in the studio you like to give a shout out to?
I've seen a few. There's a band up here called Chartreuse. We haven't worked with them, but I've seen them. They were great. Me and Neil did a gig in a church at the start of the year, and we played with a band called Casino from Liverpool. That was up in Aigburth. They were great, really good. And then there's I mentioned earlier, there's Andre Lavelle, who sings on our new album, Lavelle. He's brilliant. People should check him out. He's just a solo artist that's like Britain's answer to Teddy Pendergrass or Luther Vandross. He's got a great voice, he's a young lad. Brilliant, man. So we do see things on our travels, and I find that really inspiring as well. And I'm always making a point, if I go to a gig still now, I always make a point of trying to see the support man, in case seen a good young support man support a guy called Eddie Shaker, but unfortunately I forgot their name. But they're great. I'll put a link on to you later, find out. But I'm always seeing things. Great, it's lovely to see that. Really good.
So what does the future hold for you, Stone Foundation, in both the short term and the long term?
Immediately we will start touring, so we're off in September. End of August we do 2 big gigs with Tom Jones at Cardiff Castle, and then we go on our own steam. We're off to Italy, Switzerland, Vienna for the first time, and then we come back, and in October we start the UK tour in Oxford, and that goes through October, November, and it finishes on, I think it's November the 29th, Shepherd's Bush Empire, which is one of the biggest gigs we've played to date on our own. So initially, short term, it's the tour to promote the album. And long term, I think what we'll do, we'll take a time now and we'll start writing songs again, and the process will start again. So we'll do that the next couple of years. We'll start recording and probably release something in a year or two again, and go round again with it, and decide long term where we want to move the band and how it's going to evolve again, really.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a constant hamster wheel kind of thing, but you're constantly trying to look for new ways to evolve and...
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, it's not cynical to call it an hamster wheel, but it is a cycle. Yeah, it is kind of record, release, or keep opening up new avenues as well, though. Like Germany's doing really well for us. And then we started to do well in Holland. These gigs in Italy come on the back of supporting Paul there, but it's new territory for us. So we're trying to break new ground in Europe. I mean, we do really well in Germany now. So we're hoping to mirror that as well. So we're saying that, to answer your question, it becomes kind of pleasurable because you're seeing it's like a passport to the bloody world, you know, doing this. I never thought I'd be doing this now at 57, 58, you know.
Yeah. Talking of Europe, what's it like touring there post Brexit?
It's got complications. It has, but nothing you can't round really. I mean, it's all to do with the carnets and different paperwork. It's just a more long-winded process. But we got round it we had a support band, the Bugs, and we used their equipment, so we didn't have to take too much equipment ourselves. But recently, we've just been to Germany. We did, and we had no complications with it. And I think it will get reversed for artists because it's been such a nightmare. I think they will look at that eventually. They already are got things in process to make it slightly easier. But it's things like your merch as well that becomes complicated. We can make a lot of money off merchandise, and that will pay for your petrol and being on the road, just your day-to-day living. That helps with that. But that's compromised because there's more rules in place on what you can sell, what you can take, what you can bring back into the country. So it's made it very complicated in that respect, Martin. Feel penalised almost, It's I don't know what they were thinking with that really. But we're managing to get round. We are managing to get around and get by at the minute.
So it's just kind of more admin, basically.
Yeah, they've not made it any easier. It's more paperwork before you travel. Yeah.
Right, and that brings us to the end of the interview. Have you enjoyed being on?
I have, mate. It's been nice conversation, some nice questions.
Yeah, thanks for coming on and taking time out of your day. Really, really, really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me.
It's all right. Have you got any gigs or tours, new releases you want to tell people about again?
Well, it's a tour, mate, really, that's upcoming. For people in the UK, we start, I think, on the 23rd of October in Oxford. All the dates are on the website, so you can buy tickets for any of them. And I think there's about 15 dates, and they go around all the regions, Brighton, Leeds, Manchester, Birmingham. They're all there anyway to see. And hopefully people can get along and check us out.
Right. So how can people reach you online? Have you got socials, a website?
StoneFoundation.co.uk, obviously Stone Foundation on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, X, whatever it's called now. So we're on all the socials. We're easy to find. So yeah, brilliant. Searching and you'll find us. Thank you.
Right. Please like, share, follow and subscribe to the Sounds Like Us podcast on Instagram and YouTube. And finally, to play us out, do you want to introduce your latest song?
Yeah, this is the title track from the new album, and it's called The Revival of Survival.
It's Revival of Survival from Stone Foundation. And just want to say a massive thank you to Neil Sheasby of the Stone Foundation. Been a real pleasure having you on to do the podcast, mate. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Nice one, Martin. Speak soon.
Yeah, take care, mate. Thank you.
Let's face it up.